All I'm missing is a bed. How long is the sprint? 18 years.
But over the summer, they said, McDonald's not only this week, I was like, next Friday is National Donut Day, and that did not convince them
It's
to.
9 o'clock.
That she would have, Fiona would have gladly made donuts, because she likes
All right.
donuts, but her manager.
Good morning. Welcome to If We Had a Redo. Adam Martin, Gary Moore. Just to give you a little heads up, we love this building very much, but no building process, no building is perfect. The process behind building it is not perfect. So we want to go through and tell the story of the history of this building and things we would do differently and things we got right, and recommendations to you all. What we would do differently. The first thing I would say, and you see this, is have the right people in the conversation. There were times when we did this building, and Adam agrees with me on this, that we didn't have the right, we had a good number of people in the conversation, but there were times, I think, when especially came to courtrooms and the trial rooms where some furniture choices might have been a little bit different. See Campbell nodding her head. I mean, the excellent example is the first day of classes, and they had a class in the trial room, and I think it was Emily Suskies, and she's like, there's no tables. I can't teach in here. So we ended up using the library conference. That is really, really important. There were things in the conversation, especially we're going to talk about the soffits in a second. I think that was really a key thing. We did a good job, but there were times when I felt there should have been, because Amy's on the committee, there were other people in the conversation. So one of the key things that we found out, which was it became a problem, is our seminar rooms and our group-based rooms, especially the small seminar narrow rooms, like 133. If you take a look when you get a chance, maybe on a tour, it's a very narrow room. And really, you can only do it in rows. It's like you can't even really do an oval in there. But the really big problem with that room was from an AV standpoint. The designer, waveguide, as some of you guys may know them, they felt the one area where we originally were going to have the screen and the podium, which these are these size podiums, was too narrow. And in some ways I agree with them. However, their solution was to put the screen where the windows are and a whiteboard on the other side. Yeah, that doesn't work. So when you get a chance to take a look at it, it should have been all in the same spot. I know it would have been a little bit narrow and all that, but from a usability standpoint, it just doesn't work. And so now we have a portable whiteboard there. And it's one of those things that when you do seminar rooms, and we also did that to try and do pods. You'll see in those rooms we have TVs and all that. It just doesn't work. And I think having people, if we had a little more of a heads up. I mean, it was a surprise to us that they decided to do it. The other key thing was, you see the soffits here in the classrooms. It's not as bad as this. What happened was the ceiling height had to be lowered by a foot. So in some rooms, like this room, it's perfectly fine, and the soffit. In other rooms, the projector is like seemingly right on top of you, 395 of the smaller classrooms. And that was something we didn't know until after the fact. And it really affected the AV, because you can see with the soffit, it's a good foot. All right? And the screen is large and it had a great aspect, but if you go to like 395 and you stand there, you have to stand to the side. I really noticed it in our presentation yesterday, and it reinforced that. That was something they needed to tell us, and it really didn't happen. So that was one of the key things I would really do. Furniture layouts, like I said, furniture layouts is another thing I would say. The idea was, if you heard the dean, to be flexible and all that. So in our group-based learning rooms and our seminar rooms, we have those tables. They're not exactly movable. So there's twofold things here. One, to have really flexibility, you really can't with tables in between. You have to have kind of a set pattern. So like, like 283, we have it in an oval, and that's good, but all the faculty agree with it, because you really can't move tables like that. Especially if you get a chance to look at the tables, they're daisy chain powered. So one of the things that, it's not easily moved. And so one of the things, and Ramona knows about this, is that we always know when you can move them. We always know when the students move them, because what's the most common thing you hear if like, they're in a room and a student is in there?
My laptop's not charging.
Yes, to paraphrase a line from the original Star Trek, we need more power, Captain. So that was like one of the things, it's just, I know when they move the tables. So it's flexibility is great, but your room tables, if you're going to do that, make sure it's something that's easily taken apart and put back together. But you may also want to just say, it's not exactly flexible if the faculty member wants to use it in a different configuration. One of the other more interesting things is having projectors and AV equipment that have IP addresses around the network is great, unless you have a power outage. So we found out the hard way. And so, unfortunately Eric is not here, or Cassie, where we're talking about it. So one of our things in the beginning, we had a couple of power outages in the first year that happened late at night. And we didn't know about it until the next morning. We came in and some of our equipment. We found out very quickly, if you found out, our projectors are supposed to be locked into an IP DHCP table. And you know if they didn't do it right, it's like if there was a power outage and then you lost the IP address. And so we were trying to figure out what was causing this. It was only one, it happened only once or twice. And then September last year, we finally figured out what happened. And I was present when it first happened. We had a major power outage on campus from SEE&G. It was a Wednesday night. And I heard the power was out. Somebody from the library contacted me. And I came down. And I get here and I'm like, we're good. Backup generator's running. When the backup generator, our AV closets go on the backup generator, lighting, classrooms, we're all up. I'm like, this is great. We're working out well. While I was here, the utility power came back on. And I'm like, cool. And then all of a sudden, all our closets went down. And the stairwell lighting went down. And other things went down. And I'm like, what the hell? So I told Eric about this. And it happened again. And we figured out what happened. So what happened was, when we would have a major power outage, the generator would kick in great. When we went back to utility, the elevator circuit brought everything down. Yes. So my piece of advice to you, if you're building a new building, run an electrical test, power outage. If you have back generator, everything off. See what happens. You'll find out issues like that. You will find out whether your IP addresses are properly configured on the DHCP table. That is, I'm telling you, because we work with University Networking. You wouldn't think about it, but it happened. It took us some time to figure out, okay, when we worked with the networking, oh yeah, we didn't have that IP address. Yeah, we didn't have it. Should have been all set to begin with. We had sent them all the addresses and everything. But you really don't know until you do a test power outage in a new building. And we found out about that a year and a half in. And we're still learning some things. There's still some things that when we have a power outage. So that's a really good test to do, okay? Fun with power and ports. So I've been working on this project. We started working in 2013, right? And we actually did a power plan, remember? We actually went through the entire building, said every wall and every office needs a power and a network jack. We need power in the floors. We wanted the flexibility. We got the flexibility, as the dean talked about, with the stair, the tiers. They're not concrete; they're steel tiers, and we can take them out. But we wanted power at every seat, and ability for that. So, and we had a commons area. Did anybody take the tour of our commons? And we had the bay of 3 workstations and all that. And I said in the power plans, we need a port and power for every one of those 3 workstations. So we finally are able to get in the building. And I'll give you a piece of another really good advice. on what we did right later on. And so I'm reviewing the commons area, and I open up the floor box. The power for every seat. I only had 2 network jacks for free. And I'm like, hey, this is the thing from 3 years ago. What happened? So, I mean, there's things like that, and communication, or lack thereof. Another key thing. You want to talk about the lighting and not in the podium?
Sure. So one of the aspects of the design that we were working through and setting up the building for just I spent a lot of time on user experience and trying to make things flow, and sometimes not so much as I planned. And some of the programming when it comes to like using the room, you would want to come in and I want to touch one button and everything turns on and does what I want it to do, right? That's the dream. So lighting, shades, all of those pieces, that was in the plan and the scope for the lighting to be tied into our AV components and the shades as well. The electrician saw the scope and how it was written. To meet scope, they just had to fulfill the ability for it to be controlled by Crestron. Well, the lighting vendor provides this network-based box. It's called, I forget the name of it right now. BACnet, I think is what it's called. Well, rumor has it, no one really likes even programming for it because it's a pain. Well, the expectation though of our AV folks was copper was going to be run to each port that we needed it to be run to. Well, those lines got crossed and no one really, one guy met scope and everyone's shaking their head, no you didn't. You didn't want to run all that copper. And so that was another aspect of communication that we're just banging our head against the wall and why we don't have it programmed yet because of the lack of communication with the right folks at the right time. And that was one of our challenges we faced. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about maybe the technology in our smaller, what we call group-based learning rooms. They're not really group-based learning right now. And something we learned is the future is not now. As much as we wanted to be future-proof, we wanted to put technology in spaces that would enable groups to work together and work together in practical sense in the curriculum. Well, a couple of challenges when it comes to I'm going to bring back to the communication is you got to have faculty buy-in. That's a big part of it, right? And you can have maybe 1 or 2 faculty who will teach in that one room, but then they teach the same class in another room. And so they can't really adapt their teaching style to the technology in the room. That was one of the challenges we faced. We really were looking forward to maybe doing something a little bit different, just like the keynote speaker hit on yesterday as maybe branching out from the Socratic. And these rooms became more of a seminar space, but they're flexible, and that's the great thing about it. We learned a little bit about the technology we put in these spaces and what we would have maybe done less of in these rooms. So we tried to outfit some of them with displays because we wanted to get our toes wet a little bit with it and see how it was going to run. Well, that's a lot of infrastructure to run a matrix switcher behind the scenes so that you can put whatever you want on each display. And when I plug in at the group seminar space or that group table, there's a lot there. So we really we put some in those rooms, but they didn't get fully programmed. For a while, they were just blank displays in the room. People were asking questions, and they didn't turn on or anything. So we had to get those programmed just to at least turn on and mirror what was going on in the room. So a lot of these rooms did not get even, they have whiteboard or they're blackboards on the walls covering up those wall boxes because we do have the infrastructure in there for the future. A lot of that had, as Gary has already kind of alluded to, is the podium accessibility issue. We tried to be ADA compliant, right, as the university led us, but at the same time we wanted to have some flexibility and mobility and to meet some of those needs. So Crestron really has this great tool that you can put on an iPad X panel and have your programming designed. So I don't need this up here. I can sit out in the room with a laptop or an iPad and control the room from there. So we really tried to meet those standards that way. But with that said, we kind of went to the extreme of making sure everything was the same, and therefore some of our spaces did not really need a full-fledged podium. But we were so nervous to put something not in a room and then say, oh man, we really need it there, because yes, they plan to do that there in that space. For example, our event space downstairs where all the vendors are, it's actually a classroom. It's like a classroom. It's got all the gear except for cameras, but it can run like a classroom.
Yeah.
We didn't need that big old podium in that space, and the event folks are always bothered by that big podium, and I agree, it doesn't necessarily need to be there. So we standardized to the extreme in all of our spaces, and I would probably go back and revisit that and see if we could put the gear hidden or somewhere different.
And I think that, like I said, in the small, narrow seminar rooms, and giving you a chance, if you can, go see 133 and anything that's right above it, that adversely affected, and that caused that decision by the Wave Guide to do that. Maybe in hindsight, we should have had a narrower podium and put some stuff in the walls so we could have a better experience for the faculty in there. Our philosophy of being consistent could have adversely, I'd say, probably adversely affected that decision in the seminar rooms.
So if I had a redo, I'd probably revisit those value engineering conversations and maybe not outfit the group-based learning rooms like we did, still have the infrastructure, but then I would rather have some codecs for video conferencing, because I'm doing a lot more of it now in this space than I ever have, and it's still continuing to grow in that need and that demand for it to be very professional, because I have to give more context. We came from an asbestos building. We could not do anything. We couldn't work in any of the walls or put in professional gear. And so we were always having to work around that, and that might be where you find yourself. And so we're very fortunate to be able to put some things in the walls and revisit them. The next part, yes, this is my slide. So I talked about the tech and the podium. We really feel like the displays and the inputs and all of the inputs that we have a gazillion options now. And that can be overwhelming and confusing for folks, but it also provides opportunity. I've had moments where everything in the podium doesn't work, but something in the rack is working, so we can use that because that's where it lives, and we can connect to it via the network. And that saved us a couple of times. Amy Milligan can speak to that because she was actually able to have class.
Yes. Sherlink was her friend.
Sherlink was our friend. So if I did that again, would I redo that? Maybe. I might not put so many big pieces. Some of those big bring your own device options are very helpful, especially when I just need to bring a laptop when something's not working, and do that. Now, the conversation when it comes to communication with designers and designing, say, the podium and the racks, and this kind of this was the trend. Every classroom was an island in our old building, right? And they all kind of worked on their own. And then moving to this, dependent upon a rack down the hall. Sounds great because you don't have to interrupt class and you can troubleshoot behind the scenes. It's awesome. I would do more of it. If I had a redo, I would push in on the designers. I don't like that this room still depends on this podium. The brains are in this room, not down the hall, and that's kind of one of the challenges. So if I had a redo, I would go back and maybe push in on with the designers and see what more could we get out of the podium and down the hall, because that's something I'm always looking to minimize. Let's see here, get my notes here. So ShareLink is another tool that we use in the classrooms, and we are still not tapping into its capabilities. I would probably do that again. It's one of those screen sharing devices. It's not like Apple TV, but we have Apple TV and ShareLink. There's two options, and ShareLink has a world of options that we could really tap in with sharing displays And I would do that and the annotator hands down. If I could do just those two devices, I think that would make a big difference. So yeah, Terry's going to talk about the budgeting aspect.
Budget, the original budget for the AV was $4 million. And we found out about, what was it, December, before the building opened? That we had to cut $520,000 out of the budget. Yeah, it was fun. Let me tell you, it was like, I was like, I felt like, you remember Crazy Eddie? Does anybody remember Crazy Eddie? He was like his prices are insane, and I'm like cutting like 8 Crazy Eddie to cut stuff out. So some of the stuff that you cut out was things like, was the video conference codecs. If there was some, and Adam has already said it, I really wish we had video conference codecs in every room to have a professional experience. I mean, you see, we have the webcams, so like some rooms we don't have codecs. So.
And
it
the
is-
study rooms. The
Study
study rooms are another aspect that
Yeah.
I think our conference rooms and study rooms I would finish off rather
Yeah.
than leave.
We chose to put displays in the group-based learning rooms and the lecture rooms and the seminar rooms, and they're not being used to their fullest. If we had a choice, I would have done, so we have 26 study rooms, 21 have displays, but we have the infrastructure. I'll tell you about, that's the key thing that we did right. We have rooms to be determined, as I call it. And the student affairs conference rooms, we thought they're down to 125A and 125B. We thought at the time they were just going to be using it for display and all that. Little did we know that they were going to do so much video conferencing. And that's one thing probably now we're looking back. We at least have the infrastructure to go back and do. That's a really key thing. We ended up getting more mics for the courtroom. I mean, it worked out fine because we already had the infrastructure, but we did not realize how much, as far as mics and sound we needed in that courtroom. Another key thing I cannot stress enough, do not scrimp on acoustics and sound panels. Do not do that. And the architects did down in the courtroom. And they can tell you, when we first opened up this building, if the dean was here, he'd be nodding his head big time. We had a major reverb. Because if you look at the courtroom now, you can see the difference in the lower fabric panels. You'll see they look a little different. They were not there in the beginning. And we had one heck of a reverb in that courtroom, our grand space. So we actually, the Center for Teaching Excellence did an educational showcase. And the folks from Division of IT Classroom Technology knew that this was an issue. So we actually did some work. They brought in some panels, and we did some tests. And they're like, yeah, we need to have fabric panels all the way down and on the windows. So we actually did that, what was it, last summer? Made a world of difference. So the acoustics you hear now are so much better than they were before. We actually had to turn off a speaker because the reverb we have 2 major speakers in that room. We actually turned off a speaker a while to cut down on the reverb. That's how bad it was. So I cannot stress enough, do not skimp on acoustics. It's really important. Zoning rooms and voice lift is really important. And yeah, like I said, the study rooms, I think that's what we would have focused on first. So that's a really key thing on budget. ShareLink has been huge. I recommend that highly. We'll talk about that more in budget there, but that saved us. And I don't think there's anything else, I think, as far as
So this is this just doesn't do justice in a project because you have your dreams and you have the reality and you're going along. You just want your dreams just to keep going and your reality just to keep going, right? And to meet up in the middle, and that golden arrow is just where they meet up at the top. And that's the dream, right? That's what we want. Well, that's not really what happens when you're doing a project. So we're going along, we have these dreams, and maybe you feel like you need to temper your expectations a little bit. Okay, maybe my expectations are high. My colleague James, he tends to temper my expectations because I want to get like 20 things done when it's really we only get 2 things done, right? So this is kind of what it looks like. What it looked like for us, we had to kind of bring your dreams, say, okay, we can't quite do that yet, but then that arrow, that golden arrow is still pointing up where our dreams and reality kind of met. And honestly, this building, I love working in this building. It's a great place to work. It's a great facility. I have a lot of opportunity to do some very innovative things in this facility. So it's awesome. If you saw our old building, you would agree. You'd say, yes, you're out of the dungeon and in the light. So this is definitely something that we had to kind of work through, though, is just, yes, bringing those expectations down just a little bit. When it comes to like the lighting and the blinds and all that, we've already talked about, we already touched base on that.
Yeah, can I add one thing on
Yeah.
that? So in our courtroom, we have the Karen Williams courtroom, huge blinds. I mean, really huge blinds. So what do you think the problem with that is? They sometimes do not roll properly. So we actually have a lock on that blinds box that only 2 people have a key to, Eric and the dean. I don't even have a key to make sure that the blinds properly roll. And I had a history at Hofstra when we used blinds. These blinds have been working really well of that similar issue, nowhere near the size windows in the courtroom. Had we done something, maybe just something a little different, maybe try and do different set of blinds for each of those windows and that, it's a challenge, so if you have a space, you build a space with a huge windows like that, choose your blinds carefully.
We also, Gary, when we moved into this building, essentially said, we opened up Pandora's box with this building. And in a lot of ways we did because of our courtroom. It's the hot spot in town. The mayor of the city even gave us State of the City address in there. And so we started facilitating. Yeah, we started facilitating more events in this space than we expected, which we were not quite equipped for. Now, yeah, you have a give and take. You want to be accommodating, but also realize that we're a school. We're not an event space. So trying to meet those needs and have a space that can facilitate that. So the usage of the courtroom has evolved and changed. We've been more involved with that than ever, and even for events for the school, like the bar coming in and holding trial advocacy and trial competitions. A lot of that has grown, and we've tried to accommodate the best.
And that also involves staffing, because there is actually university rule. If an outside organization holds an event during off hours, somebody from the university, from the school has to be here.
Yeah, and when it comes to those rules and meeting those expectations, outfitting a space and having all the tech in the wall can really lead folks to think that they can use it all. And so really being able to accommodate that as well and meet those expectations. Yeah.
Real quick question. So your rule that somebody has to be here if there's an outside group, is that like a technical person has to be here to ensure the room's ready?
No, just a person, a support staff person. So like the board meeting tomorrow, Callie, hi, I'll be here. So yeah.
Now when we contract,
John's listening. Thanks, John.
when we contract with outside groups, they can choose to pay for it, to have one of us here, or have a vendor come in. We have vendors who will come in and outfit the courtroom even more so, because we just don't accommodate 12 microphones and all that stuff.
And also we've learned now since we now become the showcase building, I think you were the one who talked to us about doing presentation with how you're charging for outside events and stuff like that. So we're starting to do that, and we're also looking charging university folks for events. I mean, our time is money, and our time we're supporting other events, non-law school events. It could be university events. Well, of course we're co-sponsoring, so it's not really the case. But other, like the Boy Scouts. I mean, never thought I'd be hosting the Boy Scout annual thing every year. But who knows? Judge Anderson's with the Boy Scouts stuff. Yeah. So I mean, it's things like that, and it's money. So we're charging. It's relooking our room fees, our cost fees, our charging for AV support. I mean, that's the thing that I wish we had done a little differently. Is like built that in from the get-go. I did not realize we were going to be such a showcase building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm a technology person. I like to talk about tech, right? And meeting needs with solutions. Well, a lot of my conversations, if I could go back and tell my younger self, hey, you're going to talk a lot more about usability and furniture and how the space is going to get used, and you're going to be moving furniture every other day now, and
Yeah.
adjusting the lighting, and I would that's how the kind of advice I would give myself, and just kind of say, hey, wake up, you're going to be talking more about how that space is going to be used than you ever thought you would be.
And I'd rather be us moving the stuff than students, so.
Yeah.
I'm very
Definitely.
cognizant of that guy.
So the other aspect we put in, we were really excited about putting USB-C, because back in the day, a few years back, it was not quite there yet. We were excited about installing it, putting it in the space. It's still not quite there yet. We still have a lot of challenges. So we put USB-C in here, and it's just not now. It's not working as consistently as we would like for it to be a good standard. But it's here, but it plugs right into an HDMI. And so it's a cable, and very straightforward. But,
What was now 6 years ago isn't now anymore. It's called VGA. And that's one of my major regrets. We should have probably done Mac displays. That's probably the number one request we get for students is Mac adapters. And we have them. But, 6 years ago, VGA was still pretty popular.
So what we'd like to do now is, I feel like we temper all the kind of bad news and all the, we wish we could have done this and that and that. We really want to talk about what we feel like we got right. We've mentioned some of those things, but it'd be really good for us to talk more about what we got right. Because we really, like I said, I enjoy working here. It's a great building. We really got infrastructure right. I think we did a good job with that and putting that into place. Lots of access points for the wireless.
131.
The university has been looking at making us more of a hub for the network. So we have a good network infrastructure, and we work really closely with them.
Yeah.
Consistency is good, as much as it kind of dogged our use of the podium. I think we really try to keep the standards across the platform of our building. Listen to me. Across the building, very consistent. HDMI is good. Master control, we love master control. We're really happy with that model that we did that, and we have a master control. It still has some programming to do, and that's something that we're looking forward to doing 2.0 in there. Our PC capture appliance. I feel like I'm not paid by Panopto. I love Panopto. We have been with Panopto since we started doing lecture capture, and Panopto has been a very great platform for us in doing all that we want to do and more. I was even talking with the guy downstairs, Paul, about, there's so much more Panopto I know can do for us, and we need to figure that out.
Can I chime in here?
Yeah, please.
So, there are a lot of companies that will sell separately a capture appliance device and all that, and I won't name the vendors. There's one that dogs us all the time. All you need is a high-end PC with 8 gigs of RAM and an Osprey card, and Panopto, and you have a capture appliance. It has saved us so much money to do that, and it works like a charm. We capture every input from the podium, including a device that I dearly love, and I will soapbox it in a second. And Amy probably knows where I'm going on that. I can't stress that enough, how, that saved us a lot of money to do that, not have to do a dedicated appliance. So, yeah, you can do that. Yes?
So I have a question. We're a big Panopto shop too, but we're just using because we haven't refreshed anything, it's just a room computer, needs to be turned on for
Right.
everything to work.
We used to have the same thing.
Yeah, and so this summer we're putting solstice pods in our classrooms because we've got a lot of ask for that type of support, and our podiums aren't in the right place, and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, but the biggest fear is those who want to just bring in their laptops, because they're going to be doing wireless, basically. We can still capture what's going on in the room, but we're not going to be able to capture the PowerPoint slides in such a way. So the way you guys have got it set up, like if you bring in your computer with PowerPoint and plug in, it's capturing
Yep.
just like the room computer would.
Yeah, everything runs back to the rack, to the capture appliance.
That's cool.
And with Panopto, you can capture a secondary display.
And, what you could theoretically could do, if you have the space in the room, I'm sure Tom Ryan, this is going through his head right now, he probably does it. and just won't tell me, is have something that runs back to a rack in the room and then have the capture appliance there. Necessarily could do that, right, Tom?
Yeah, we just did 3 classrooms last summer, and we put the Panopto Seneca appliance back in the rack. So all of our capture happens back in the rack. It just runs back into the rack.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mixing of video and all of the audio down in the rack that happens, and that's, that really is saved us. But, you know, if you have people bring in their laptops and you have a headset, you can get them installed with Panopto, and those recordings can be joined.
Yeah.
It takes some effort and time, and, you know, if it's really needed.
Yeah, we have done that.
They're
We
using
tested
their
that.
laptops wirelessly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I even still do it here because I have rooms that I don't have anything in, that I have to bring stuff in. And I have a laptop and I have a recording laptop, and I join those recordings together. One's a secondary display, and it's capturing the PowerPoint.
That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know if they still have the sample Panopto lectures on their website, but he actually did a test early on in our old building. It was one of their featured lectures about how you can join multiple streams together.
Yeah, I'd set up all these different Panopto recorders in one of our courtrooms in the old building, and just kind of tied them all in. Still bring the app in and all that. It was a lot of fun. I had fun making that. So this behind me, it's hard to see really because I was telling Gary I was trying to be a little artsy, so it's hard to see. It didn't show up very well up here. But you can see there's like Classroom 90C, and it's got all these icons. When we sat down with the designers, it came up with kind of a level system. And that was, I think that was a good move. That was how we fashioned all the rooms, and we talked with them, had a good conversation. We've got our AV designers on how we move forward.
It really helped us
in all these
because,
spaces.
and that really helped us in that when they did the first AV report, if you remember, they didn't have all the rooms to certain levels that we wanted. So it helped us decide where we needed to go. We bumped up a lot of rooms to the same level. In fact, actually all the rooms to the same level, because we thought the consistency was very important. They were trying actually to do things differently, I guess, budget-wise, whatever, and it would have been an adverse effect on the experience of the faculty member had that happen. So that having those levels helped us.
Some of the benefits of having the rack and the capture appliance, it as a PC is actually utilize that PC to do streaming of the room separate from Panopto if I want to do in-house streaming. Panopto is maybe a minute or so behind because it is being processed in the cloud, where this in-house capture appliance allows for others in the building to connect if they needed or wanted to a room, and I can stream that room, and I can do that all on that PC. So that's also been a good move. I think having a capture appliance that's just buckled down a little bit more, you can't treat it like a PC, is a little bit more challenging. But we've been able to take advantage of that. Choir mics, we really like the choir mic setup. I wish I had them in the courtroom. It really has made it a lot easier for us to capture back and forth, Q&A. In the classroom, so if we could do it again, we'd do that again.
And it captures also the faculty member real well, unless you have a soft voice. We have some faculty where we have to use a lapel mic, like Josie Brown, for example. But it captures your voice real well. And we do a number of class recordings. Professor Milligan does for all of her classes, and we hear you loud as day. Review that, so it's good.
The capture.
Yes.
Do the choir mics, do they do voice lift in the room, or is it only capture?
Only capture.
Only capture. We have lapel mics to do voice lift.
Yeah.
So you don't have a problem hearing the back row?
No.
No.
We were commenting, we've actually heard conversations in the background. That's why we were trying to tell you guys in our presenters meeting, it's live, we'll hear you. Yeah, we will.
Yeah, the rooms, fortunately, we had Symmetrics as our audio handler for the rooms. It's all IP based, but fortunately, we had to go back and program voice lift that wasn't initially, somehow it got omitted in the design. And we wanted voice lift. And so we had to come back. So, yeah, sorry, I'm going back. If we had a redo, I would make sure that the rooms were zoned a little bit better so we could maybe make some adjustments in audio that we can't really do because we don't have them zoned. That would be better. That'd be something we'd do. Confidence monitors, you see these in all of our classrooms, like this classroom. I would do that again. I think that it was a good move for us to put confidence monitors. It helps with the installation of that camera back there as well, but it's also a very nice feature. When it comes to the podiums, I'm really glad we found these arms to move the display around. This is something I would do again, definitely. I mean, we can go full circle. They're great arms. And podiums being, lifted and lowered, that's also another bonus and plus. I think that we did really well. I would do these podiums again in a heartbeat. I'm really proud of these podiums.
Do you guys have wheels on those podiums?
Yes, they do have casters on them. I've threatened to take them off in some rooms because of their movability. Some rooms have 2 locations, and we actually had to go back, and one of our rooms, the 2 locations, we had to outfit it a certain way so it would work, and we can move that podium over because that floor box wasn't really made for the podium, so we were able to move it to that floor box. But some of the rooms do have alternate locations, and we're glad we do have
Like the
that.
Karen has that, and we call it the Karen Williams Courtroom. And that has actually come in handy because of a couple times we've had to move, at the request, we've had to move the podium up to its other location. So,
I think we did really good with the camera and sound quality. It's a good balance. I would probably spend more time on audio than we did, but I think we landed a good package when it comes to packaging up lectures and everything for lecture capture. Scheduling panels, I think that was also another good move. It's really great to be able to look down the hall and folks to see something's going on in the rooms. How they get used, maybe we could do better with how we use them and work with our 25 Live folks, see if we can get better information on them. That's been another challenge. And then last but not least, our document camera soapbox. Dun, 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 dun.
you knew this was coming, Amy? So, there are things I really like, and one of the things that, we love document cameras. I said my favorite thing is Apple TV, which is true. I mean, that helped us even a lot, even in the old building. If you're not using Apple TV, it's a great thing to use, and you can get it authenticated on a network. We worked on that. We've had that actually in the old building. We used to actually give out, remember, Apple TVs to faculty. Now we have it in there. But I love document cameras. They get used heavily. I know Amy does a lot of them. A lot of her classes with that. If it was up to me, it was up to Adam, maybe up to Amy, we wouldn't have whiteboards in the classrooms. I think it's, using a document camera, we capture this, like I said, we capture everything that's in the podium, that capture points. So when you're working on the document camera, you see it clear as day as a screen. It's a great thing. And plus you can write on it, and you can that. We have the cameras, you can capture maybe some of the whiteboard, but not really. I love document cameras, and we actually use them heavily. And we used to when I used to be in the old place at Hofstra, in my old place, Hofstra Law School in New York. We used document cameras extensively, and they just didn't like the whiteboards because the custodians couldn't clean them, properly. And so, that was actually a really useful thing. So that's my soapbox, getting on the document cameras. Oops, sorry, my laptop. Yep, I know. As the allergies kick in. Budget choices. I think we did a really good job, and for the most part, on budget, where we needed to cut down, or what we did do right. Infrastructure is important. Do not skimp on infrastructure. You will need it. You can always go back and add things like displays and all that. Power ports. Have a port in every wall. Have a network, a port in every wall. Power and port. It's important. You just don't know how people are going to configure their rooms. That was a really good thing that we did. The amount of digital signage, we had more signage than we needed. We cut down on that. Swipe card access has been huge. It's really helped us as far as classrooms and spaces, and I think that's really important. Another thing that we did really well, and it's not really budget per se, if you build a new building, one of the key things you should do right before everybody moves in, connect every network port you can in an office, have a surge protector. We did a really good job of going in the rooms. And not only that, it told us where maybe there should have been an additional, like, AC outlet, like behind the circulation desk in that office. So things like that was really helpful. I think we did a really good job with floor boxes. So like the third floor, like the 50-seat classroom, it originally was the podium was over here, and we have that in some of our other rooms, and you had it in rows, and the faculty member felt, away from the students. So in our third floor classroom, 50-seat, we actually did a U, and we have a box right here, and they can actually walk around and just in the U. That's a much better experience. So if you can do multiple floor boxes for AV, I highly recommend it. I think we did a really good job. I think video, I know we spent a good percentage on video, but I think it was important because we're now using it so much. I mean, the recording classes and everything we do, it gives a better experience what we did in the courtroom, being able to really give a good recording quality for that. So those are the things I think we really did well. Another thing, we cut out certain things we didn't really need. And one of the key things is that we were looking to do a sound system in the cafe. And it would have been nice. We'd have music over that. But was it really important? No. And I'm going to end on this because if we did have sound in the cafe, we might have some unexpected guests. And considering the day, rainy days and Mondays always get me down. So that's our presentation. We have time for questions, and feel free. Yes?
Any issues giving students access to your wired network? Is it all VPN'd off very carefully?
We haven't had any problems. Most of them probably haven't been using it. It's a really good question, and I think maybe you're on a tour. All network ports are active. I would not have done that. That's one of those if we had a redos, and I wish I had said that. Thank you. From a security standpoint, I would not have activated all the ports. Probably would have done it in the study rooms for sure. Because, wired is always still going to be better than shared Wi-Fi access. By the way, we are 1 gigabit to the desktop, and the Wi-Fi is 1 gigabit. But still, Wi-Fi was always going to be a shared medium. So dedicated is always going to be faster. I think the study rooms would have been fine. I'm just thinking there are open places and ports. I agree with you. I would not have done it. We are actually I'm talking to some friends of mine in the engineering school. They actually have some software that they actually lock down ports. We're looking into that. So yes, that's a good question. No, I would not have activated every port. Yes?
So in your study rooms, did you put Apple TVs in there too?
No, we did not.
Our study rooms are strictly come in, plug in,
Yeah.
turn on.
Well, I know, it's the same problem you guys run into, accessory ports, because, a number of MacBook Pros now have any inputs, and so, we've got to buy a bunch for people to check out, so we can plug in.
We were good, like I said, the VGA I regret. I wish I'd done Mac display, but the USB-C, the new laptops, the Mac ones work well. HDMI is always a good standard.
Yeah.
The reason I kind of hemmed on the Apple TV, because I told Alex that's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
If we had the budget to do it, and maybe, yeah. But also with Apple TV, there's just so much. We do it for the classrooms. It would have been a lot for 26 more, and the more I'm thinking about it and seeing somebody use the wrong Apple TV for that, I don't know. But it's a good question. I'm very fond of Apple TV, and I don't know. We have the infrastructure. Maybe we'd go back and do it if we needed to.
And like you said, it's a finite amount of money.
Yeah, but I'm really glad that's one of the things that we certainly kept, is that because most of our students are Mac. It's 70%. And, yeah.
What about your faculty and staff? Are there more Mac?
I'd say a quarter Mac. Amy is, like me, dual compliant. She's both Mac and Windows. So, but a lot of the new faculty are Mac.
So what's the story behind the little sign on your podium?
This?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Give me a story.
Yeah, it brings you back to your question. You just have people who move them, and we don't want, I mean, I've got fiber in some of the rooms, I just don't want to have to go back and re-terminate cables or, you know, any of that. So some of the rooms I just did it everywhere.
Yeah,
They're locked,
yeah.
but they can be moved, jiggled or moved a little bit or shimmied, right?
Yeah.
And
So the wheels are locked?
Yeah.
Or what's locked?
They,
the wheels.
they get mostly moved in the trowel courtroom, because the trowel teams will, you know, be using the room. And so we really worked hard with the, like, Brett Bain and Brooke Andrews, who run the trowel teams, to let us know ahead of time. We'd be happy to turn them around when you got something, but let us know, because if you don't do it properly, you will damage something.
We're definitely willing to come in and move it if needed or adjust it. Like this room is an example where we have a floor box, everything's under it. I do have some rooms where the cabling is worked out into the wall.
Yeah.
So I came into one of our
204.
similar 204 is a good example. I came into that room one day and the podium had been pulled all out. The cables were trip hazards. They were extended fully. And so that's something, that's why some of the signage has happened.
Yeah, which reminds me now, thank you, you said 204, is one thing I left out. And I said to folks, I think on the tour yesterday, to do this. If you are building a new building, in your old building, build a sandbox of what you want to have in the new building. I can't stress enough how helpful that was, that we built it in 337. And I want to give a lot of, one of the things I also want to give a lot of credit, we had a really good committee and worked with us, and she also had been in 337. So I want to give credit to Amy and a lot of other people who were on the committee. We did have a lot of advocates and people who were thing. There were just some rooms that I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to apologize to her right now. We dropped the ball on the seminar rooms in 133. We really should have pressed the folks at Waveguide that no, do not move, do not have them in two separate locations, the screen and the whiteboard. And we should have stayed in that. But getting back to the sandbox, we found out some things early on real quick. Video conference, nobody likes the tracking cameras. Students get peeved out by that. And faculty did too. The National Advocacy Center is right down there. We often go to see them for tech support. They gave us a recommendation for an annotator. It was god-awful. We now use an Extron Annotator 300, which is fantastic, and we found that out after the fact. I think Extron was demoing, that's what we did. Crestron's Share Media, we talked about ShareLink. We did Crestron's first. Hated that too. ShareLink was so much better. We learned about the Apple TV, that's how it was so good. And we learned so much from having a sandbox because we built the podium and things we did wrong from the get-go and then fixed and then we liked. I can't stress it enough. If you end up doing a new building or a major renovation, build a sandbox first and get faculty to use it and get buy-in from there, and it helps you so much.
And you know what, one of the biggest aspects to that was we worked with, yes, we had a designer we worked with, and we were the client, they really helped us kind of maneuver through all of that. But our integrator was the university, and that was the biggest, I think, win for us, because they didn't finish up, you know, brush their hands off and leave, they're still here. And we still have a kind of and we have an agreement with them on a level of support that say we can't get certain things figured out. They still have an intimate knowledge of our programmer is university, you know, he's the programmer. So
If you can have that as your integrator, do so, because they were vested in the project from the get-go. They have the standards, so like if we're not an island, so like if we can fix a lot of things. I mean, he did a great job. He fixed the DPMS card on his own earlier in the week with 130. He's gotten to be really proficient in that. But having that next level of support was huge, is huge. And having them vested in the project from the get-go meant that it was very important to get this done right. They tell people, I mean, I was in a committee meeting over in Blossom, the Division of IT, and Jeff Ostillo from there goes, yeah, go to the law school, talk to Gary or Adam about AV. They did it right, because they helped out. So they understood that this was going to be a showcase building, and they were very vested in it, and it helped greatly. Yes?
Can I offer one other thing that I think that y'all did absolutely right from the faculty perspective? So in our old building, it was very clunky. If our tech went down in our classrooms, as faculty members, you were just kind of screwed because we couldn't contact anybody to come help us. We have a help button on these podiums. So if our tech goes down, we press a button and somebody comes
Yeah.
and at least you know it's a problem.
And we actually looked originally into putting a phone in the classroom, and that was one of the things we cut down, and that's just a lot easier. And we get the email immediately when one of us responds. I mean, the funniest thing was the students, we had an issue, like I said, at 1:30, and the students pressed the AV because they weren't getting any video, they had audio. And then I show up and they're like, you know, yeah, this is down, like, you know, that. And so even the students realized, you know, they get really quick support. Somebody else had a question.
Oh yeah, I was wondering, you said that the position of the projectors was an issue because they had brought the ceiling down by a foot, but I was kind of wondering like why you guys didn't go with short throw projectors like in the back.
We did look at that, didn't we?
Yeah, there were a lot of back and forth conversations with
Yeah.
architects.
There's some AC in the back, so I think that was one of the issues.
Hmm.
In this room, it's not so bad, but we noticed it, I noticed it yesterday, 395, if you go up to the third floor, it's right in your face. So, I mean, the 1 foot drop really affected me. I mean, when I went up there to show you when we were going over this, right before we had this, and I mean, I was like slightly blinded when I came back up. Yeah, we looked at that, and I think because there's like a lot of that's the reason why we dropped the foot, was the AC. And I think that was one of the issues about doing back. We actually looked at that, yes.
And to tell you, one of the places we started was there were initially going to be 2 stop points for this the screen, and the projector was going to accommodate 2 different dimensions and all this stuff. It was you kind of have to draw the line at how much it's going to break. You know, like when you do all of that, because you know, less points of failure. You really will have to aim for that the best you can. So yeah, I mean, thankfully that was another great aspect of having a relationship with our integrator and us talking through that. You know, what kind of support will they be able to deal with in their experience, and so that got cut really fast.
And that was based on, I had reached out to a couple of universities that had used waveguide and how that worked out. And one had a third-party integrator and one had the university. And the one that had a third-party integrator, they had a lot of problems. The one that was their university was the integrator and worked with waveguide, had much better experience. And that really kind of, for me, was like, this is the way we need to go. So, you know, it always helps to get advice from others.
Yeah.
So I'll just add, I don't know who said the thing about the short throw projector over there. Have you ever actually used one with a drop-down screen and not a fixed surface?
Yeah, we have some.
So our biggest complaint with our short throwers is that if the screen moves a little bit, it's not as noticeable on the far. You're shaking your head, you know. If you have a drop-down screen that's not fixed with a short throw and that moves a little bit, it is extremely pronounced versus.
We did have that issue, but we fixed it with a later update.
Yeah, 'cause it's really.
We looked at reverse projection and everything, because that was our concern, was that having it in the eyes. And for like this on the here, it's fine. It's just the third floor and the smaller classrooms, we notice it. And the dean would say, I mean, I've heard the dean say it too, if it was up to him, he would not have it softened.
Just real quick, are these projector, I'm sorry, are these bulb projectors, are they laser? Or?
They're laser.
They're laser. They'll work out real well. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much. I hope this was helpful. And if you have any other questions, please let us know.
We'll give our last tech tour today too.
Yes.
So we'll probably talk more about some of the aspects in the building if you want to come.
Gary, it's not particularly relevant, but at some point when I was at Emory, I must have opened my mouth and I wound up on the occupation in it. And so one of their things that they were doing to prep for it is they would shut off the building tower, see what happened. And this had nothing to do with the law school, it was on one of the lab buildings adjacent to the CEC. And they shut off the power and the fume hoods went off. And somebody had left a Bunsen burner on the fume hood with inflamed on it. So And the building was huge, so they didn't actually, they've been checking everything, by the time they got to the floor that this would drop on, almost the entire floor, they built used to it. Gas and parts.
Oh, man.
I know, and if they had cut the power back on that check.
Right?
Right, you could have had a spark and.
Yeah.
Right, and that would have made national news, because literally it was right next door to the
Next level.
What is it?
It does.
Varies about a
Well, everybody would have.